Hey, what is everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the high-grade version of the brand new main Gundam, Gundam Zirius. Just in case you don't know what this Gundam is from, this is from the brand new Gundam manga called Gundam 8, where Gundams fight Kaiju. 8. What? But all jokes aside, let's get serious. It's always super cool to see a brand new main Gundam, especially one that kind of mixes up the traditional Oryx 78-2 vibe. Now this one right here, it has two forms. That is the light armor state, and the other form then is the one with the feather extensions. So when it does come to this high-grade Gundam right here, good point, it's absolutely unique. Looking, we've got panels, angles, giant blue plates on its back, which is also Kaiju-esque, but we do have a couple of bad points. Bad point 1, this is a premium Bandai exclusive. Even though the box is very nice and is a bit of a new take on that classic high-grade box look, it is actually P Bandai only. So that does mean that this kit right here, I got through those awesome people over at Buy, so if you want one of your own, link in the description. The other bad point is, this broke instantly on me. I mean, 2 poses in and the leg came off. Now, I have fixed it since, so it's not so bad now. I'll talk about that in depth a little bit later, but for now, let's get right on into it. So first off, I will mention just a little bit of a blurb that is on the side of the box about this series itself in case you don't know anything about it. What it says right here is, the third planet in our solar system, Earth, eons has passed since the birth of humanity. Groundbreaking developments in science and biotechnology has freed humanity from conflict and suffering, bringing them eternal prosperity. Or so it was supposed to be. The year 2030 SC. Humanity is about to lose control of Earth, the cradle of the human race. 258 survivors are left with only single Gundam. It does say it like that, by the way, I'm reading it directly. This does definitely leave out the whole fact that there's Kaijus in it, but I guess they don't want to give away too much of the plot, so you can go read it yourself. Also, when it comes to the Gundam itself, just to kind of paraphrase this, it's an extravehicular mobile suit for basically working outside of space vehicles. An unknown organism known as Mother Swan was found in the rings of Saturn. Basically, humanity pushed forward technology in order to go screw around over there and obviously do stuff they shouldn't do and end up screwing their own buttholes. The blurb here finally ends with saying the development concept of the Gundam Zirius includes phrases such as a next-generation all-purpose machine that fulfills the dreams of humanity. Its most prominent features are the feather extensions installed in its back. So anyway, moving back in time to the build, this is about your average size high-grade box. When you bust it on open, you get an average amount of high-grade plastic. We've got 6 runners of color-separated plastic, the way we like to see it. On top of that, we do have 3 runners of effect parts, that is, standard beam saber beams, and we do have the feather extension units. These are very, very nice. At the same time, they're a little bit pearlescent, a little bit glittery, and have a bit of a color shift in the light. One thing that did shock me a little bit about this kit is there is polycaps included. You don't use them all, it's mainly for the neck, torso, shoulder joints, and the hard points in the waist. And kind of getting to that other point, maybe they should have used them in the hip joints too. Lastly, then we do have some stickers in here. These are your usual kind of foils. That's shiny ones for all the various sensors and lights all over the Gundam, including the eyes. So we do not have color separated eyes on this kit. It's a little bit more classic high grade. Anyway, when it does come to the build, starting off with the legs, these are very, very nice, quite detailed at the same time, extremely simple. Now, this is the light armor version you build up first. There's some decent enough articulation going on in here. And one really cool thing about this is you can actually build this up as the inner frame. So there isn't a whole inner frame for the entire kit. The legs and the arms have inner frame. The head obviously is just head. There's no inner frame there at all. And the torso has some, but it does rely on some of the armor in order to hold some of the joints in, like the shoulder cups. So you can't build a full inner frame like some other high grades out there. Anyway, when you do build up that inner frame of the leg, then you just slap on all of the armor. There's not too many parts actually to the leg itself, but we do get enough for some decent articulation and color separation. Looks good in the end. When it comes to the offending waist unit in here, this is extremely, extremely simple. Nothing actually happens on this, nothing moves. There's no side skirts or anything like that when it's in its light armor mode. When you're actually building it, it's just 2 polycaps sandwiched between 2 bits of gray plastic. The white slaps onto the front like so, and we do have a polycap ball for the waist. When you pop the legs on, they pop on like this, and I will get back to the breakage a little bit later. Spoiler though, these are hollow, so they kind of just are weak. Moving now up to the torso, this is the most detailed aspect of the entire build. The color separation is off the charts with some nice red and yellow in here. There isn't really much to do with articulation at all. We do have an ab crunch to this, which is quite nice. It separates the body at the top very well, and it feels pretty good. When it comes to the build, you're just sandwiching parts on parts. When it comes to the ab crunch that is inside of this, it is a polycap ball, pointing forward in the kind of Zeta Gundam style ab crunch. You build up some more parts, you've got polycaps for the shoulders, it all sandwiches together in a very locking kind of way, which works out nicely. They're on some nice yellow color separation into the chest. Little spine bit round back reminds me a little bit of the Gundam Atlas. We've got more color separation, armor in from the sides, some clavicle parts, and there are some stickers involved here for the chest and the clavicles, and the neck here is a polycap. Next up in here then is the arms. When they're finished again, decent articulation on these. I really do like the kind of stripped back basic design. Single point elbow bend and a standard wrist joint on these. Just like with the legs, you're able to build up a full inner frame for these, so all the way from the shoulders to the hands is entirely inner framed. I will mention the instructions doesn't say to build it this way, that's just the way I built it, just so you can actually see what the inner frame looks like. Then I just slapped on all the armor just like so, and it does look great. Once they're finished, just slap it onto what we've got built just like this, and it is a nice, minimal armored, very geometric kind of Gundam, and it looks cool so far. Last up then in here is the head. This is just very old school. You've got stickers for the eyes, everything just kind of builds on in little pieces. Side split down the head for the armor. Big old V-fin, I did cut off these safety flags. There's a sticker for in the middle of the white central section of the V-fin, and then we add in some nice grey armor either side just like so. There are 3 stickers in total on the head, not including the eyes, which are stickers too, so that's 4. So popping the head on, and that right there is what the light armor version of this particular Gundam does look like. After that then you're getting into the rest of the build, which is still a large proportion of the build. It's only like the Gundam is only the first, I would say, 2/3 of the build, maybe even half. No, I'd say more like 2/3. Then you actually get on to building all the extra stuff. So the feather extension armor parts, there's tons of these. There's front skirtings, side skirtings, extensions to the leg armors, extension to the shoulders, forearms, ankle armors, and of course the main event is the feather extensions for around the back. So all of these are made out of blue translucent plates, again adding a bit of a kaiju or a nod to Godzilla. There's some articulation building up, and the overall backpack is quite unique. Do feel it's a little bit let down by the little bit of armor sections, the plates towards the back, because they do seem a little bit hollow and unfinished, but I'll talk about that a little bit more when I'm talking about the accessories. We have a whole bunch of beam sabers, and when it does come to the build of the weapons, first off we've got the big old beam rifle. Again, a nice big geometric design. We've got some of these feather plates inside of it, sticker for the sight, and then you throw the armor onto it when it is done with a bit of color separation in yellow towards the back. Matching with this is the shield. Again, we've got some of those feather plates in it. It's pretty simple. It's just 5 pieces including the handle, but it's one big old shield. So yeah, that brings us to pretty much what's going on right here. So at this point, it's usually when I film this kit just after it's finished being built. Some slow-mo shots in order to kind of show just what it looks like right out of box. It does have some panel lining done, but for the most part, you'll see what the finished product looks like. It's usually for using in the intro of the video, all that sort of good stuff. However, I got this into 2 poses, and when actually trying to pose it back into just its initial pose, the hip just broke. This is a shocker to me. This hasn't happened in a long time when it comes to Gundam kits. No extra pressure is being put on it. I didn't use any pan liners on any of the gray sections. It's just so strange that it just went and cracked. On closer inspection, I was just looking inside of it. The hip joints are kind of oddly designed. Now these aren't, any kind of normal size. These aren't 3mm, so you can't actually replace a broken joint with 3mm pegs. They're slightly smaller than 3mm. If you try to pop a 3mm peg, inside of these, it'll go so far before stopping. If you actually zoom in onto the inside, you can see that it actually gets a little bit tighter towards the end. What seems to have happened is this gripped the peg a little too hard and then twisted what you can see is actually a hollow point inside of the actual waist. So this is an incredibly weak section right here. This does seem to be Bandai kind of trying to use as the least amount of plastic as possible in the various different elements, which I do understand from a production perspective, but it did end up breaking like so. In order to actually fix this, what I did was I actually got a 3mm drill bit. I had to use this to hollow out where the peg had broken into the actual leg. This got stuck, almost fused. I don't know if you've realized lately, but sometimes some of Bandai's plastic is starting to fuse in the joints. This also happened to me with the Master Grade Wing Zero Verka. I had it left on the shelf for quite a, long time. Then when I went to actually just move the arm around, the hand had fused inside of its wrist joint, which meant that just even a tiny little bit of a twist, not even that much of a push, and the hand just came off on me. But yeah, after pulling it out, it doesn't look like anything particularly happened to the joint. It's still very intact, so it is a little on the strange side. Anyway, I drilled a 3mm hole into the hip in order to widen that for 3mm. I drilled a 3mm hole into the actual waist unit too. Then I went to Bandai's 30-minute missions kits because you always get 3mm stuff inside of these boxes. Now what I wanted was, there's these little long sticks you can actually get inside some of the boxes where you can just cut them into pieces. Couldn't find that, so I got one of the hangers, which looks like this. All these bars all over it are 3mm bars. So if you ever want 3mm extension bits or something to go into Gundam and 30-minute mission hardpoints, this will do the job for you. So I just cut this out, fit it into the hip just like so. I didn't actually cement it for this review because it would put me back at least a day or more waiting for this to actually cure effectively. So this is just a temporary fix for now. I will fix a little bit later. So just popped it in like so, like this. And I did go Googling online and looking around Twitter, etc. in Japanese to see if this had popped up anywhere else, and I hadn't seen it anywhere, so all I can say is be careful with this joint, just in case there is some issues. Anyway, let's rock it right on in to the aesthetics. So finally now jumping on into the aesthetics, and this right here is what we get once it's put together with a little bit of panel lining. When it comes to the overall look of this thing, it's definitely an interesting take on the classic RX-78 kind of design. We've got the old school colors. That is the blue, red, and yellow, but they are kind of toned down to a little bit more of a serious tone. This right here is the light armor mode, and you can definitely see that. From the front, it's lightly armored just where it needs it, and around back, there is absolutely next to nothing. This, of course, is where all those feather expansion sections will be attaching on, so it will be covered up a little bit more later on. There's certain aspects of this, especially the little spine section around back, that remind me a little bit of the Atlas Gundam from Gundam Thunderbolt, but there's still a whole lot of other kind of designs in there that remind me of other mobile suits. When you jump up into the head, we've almost got wing-esque ears on the sides, one big old V-fin, a double mohawk on top. The lightly armored body, especially around the arms, has an almost anatomical kind of human feel to it, which kind of detracts a little bit from the overall geometric blocky shape, in a good way. Down the legs, these are very, very geometrical. We've got super armored upper legs. They taper downwards with a little bit of color separation in yellow in the shins. There is a hard point on the shins as well. This is for the feather expansions. And the feet right there, quite simple again, lightly armored, a lot of gray showing through. When it does come to the overall design, I think it looks pretty good. The only thing that's kind of dropping the ball a little bit for me is that polycap neck. It doesn't really look too well thought out. It's just a very polycap neck that kind of just almost doesn't even fit into the armor that is below it. Bit of a weird choice. Alright, so jumping on a little bit closer to check out the details a little bit. So like I mentioned, the head is very nice. You've got those ears color separated out into grey. The eyes here are not color separated. You do have to use stickers. Underneath is just kind of molded. Other stickers are in the head and around on the rear camera right here. Overall, quite nice, very detailed. And again, a very nice kind of take on the classic Gundam look, especially the white central aspect of the V-fin. The body unit right here is the most detailed aspect of it all. The cockpit section there, color separated into grey. The little tiny yellow bits are nicely added into these side sections before they're attached on. The grey coming through from underneath up top, on the shoulders. Some stickers in the clavicle and this section right here. But overall nice design, especially this little spine section around back. And these little lines here reminded me a lot of the Atlas. The waist unit in this form is very, very simple. Just some hard points. As you can see, there's hard points all over the place. 3mm, 3mm, 3mm everywhere. But yeah, not too much going on around here. The legs are super lightly armored. Now, I didn't panel line the back. It's just kind of shelf panel lining because it's only going to ever be seen from the front. But yeah, that could really do with it to bring out the little details there. A lot of grey going on. A little bit plain in some regards when it is in the light armor form. But very, very nice. But very, very nice nonetheless. So jumping into the size comparison, and if you're wondering how this clocks in side by side with an RX-78, well, there you go. We've got the high grade Revive on the left, the real grade on the right, and as you can see, the Zirius is about the same size as those. Height-wise, just a lot narrower and skinnier, like the light armor suggests. So blasting through some other kits, there's the high-grade G-Quax, the high-grade Gundam Ariel, high-grade Gundam Barbatos, Gundam Exia, G-Self, Atlas Gundam, Gundam EX, and the last premium Bandai exclusive Gundam, the D Gundam First. So now jumping on into the accessories, and here's everything that comes with the high-grade Gundam Zirius. As you can see, the accessories in here pretty much make up about 50%, if not a little less, than the overall actual build, which is pretty insane. What we do get in here is the giant beam rifle, a pair of beam sabers, that massive shield, and then everything that makes the armored up version of this, including that feather backpack, and all of the various little bits of armor that attach onto the body. But anyway, let's check out the hands first. So first up, when it does come to the hands in here, it is these guys right here, your kind of typical block holding hands. These right here are definitely about par for the course. They don't do anything really new, unusual, or exciting. The only kind of disappointing aspect, I guess, is the fact that we don't have anything else in here. Now, these are standard hands. They are grey, small-ish, blocky Gundam hands, so you can actually get the sold separately, expressive hands, and they will match, so not too bad. Next up in here, we've got the beam sabers. As you can see, they're fairly standard. The beams themselves are just the usual pink beam. The handles are just single pieces of plastic, but as you can see, the actual design is quite nice. There's a couple of panel lines there asking for a little bit of shading. And attaching these guys in is the usual routine. They just slide on simply into the hands like so. Testing the reverse grip back here. Usually it always works. There's only odd cases where it doesn't. And there we go. Simple, but effective. So before getting this into a bit of a pose, I'm going to get it up in the air. What I usually use during these videos is the simple stand by Good Smile Company. Good, strong, reliable. We do have 2 points you can actually stick this into. The actual base hole, which is this one right here. And around back we do have a hard point as well, which is the exact same polycap joint. And for some nice poses, this is the actual placement of an attachment I like. You can pop it in like so. It doesn't get in the way of the legs, so this is what we get. Getting it into a pose is super simple. The beam sabers look good. This is a very dynamic looking mobile suit, especially when it's in its light armor mode. So this just looks crazy cool all around with a pair of beam sabers. So when these are non-used, it's the usual kind of way. You just pop them on out of the hands like so, remove them from the beam sabers. I will mention we do have 6 of these handles in total in here, only 2 beams, I suppose it only has 2 hands. And when they're not in use, they attach into these little kind of parts right here with a 3mm peg for storage. Now in the actual manual, it does say that these pop onto the feather side skirt unit things when they're actually attached on. But in essence, you can actually stick these wherever you want. If you want like beam sabers right here on the back of the arms, my favorite place for one, you can do that. This arm can reach over and grab it whenever needed, or it could just spin on around like so, squirt out that blade, and then be used as a kind of beam tonfa, not unlike the Unicorn Gundam. Again, there's hard points all over the shop if you want to use them. So next up in here, we've got the beam rifle. The color separation in here is extremely nice, especially those little feather units that are nicely glint in the light inside. We've got some here as well as down here as well. The color separation's pretty nice. We've got the yellow segment towards the back stock area, and then we've got this right here, which is just a sticker for the sight. Now, as you can tell by the look of this, this is a transforming beam rifle. It has a mid-range and a long-range mode. Now, this looks expanded, opened out, extended. The sight is popping out, so I assume it is the actual long-range mode. However, inside this particular kit right here, there is no transforming mechanisms. There's no moving parts whatsoever, even though it does look like it almost does have some. It doesn't. This looks like it might move. It does not. However, makes me a little bit hopeful for maybe something like a 1/100 version down the line that might actually transform, maybe? Come on, Bandai. So when it comes to throwing the rifle on into the hand, it's the usual Gundam sandwich hand routine. Open the hand like it's a pair of breads, throw in the beam rifle like it's the ham, and slap them together. Now this is an over-the-top, massive, huge beam rifle that almost dwarfs the Gundam, and that is so much fun. Probably is a little bit more in proportion when all the feather units are on, but this is a really cool looking beam rifle. I will mention, because there is no collapsed or closed up mode, there is no storage whatsoever here. So if it's not in the hand, it's going to be in your bits box or storage. Next up then here when it comes to the equipment is the shield. Again, this is absolutely huge. The color separation is pretty decent, even though there aren't that many parts. Got a nice grey underside, making it look heavy and armored. This is a little bit of a handle that rotates, so it means you can have it in either the left hand or the right hand. Some of that nice pearlescent plastic down at the stabby business end, and we do have a bit of a sticker in here for this little green sensory section. When it comes to attaching on the big old shield, it's pretty simple. You just pop the handle into the hand like so, and attach the peg into the hard point on the side of the forearm. That's what it looks like. Big, awesome, and heavy duty. So finally, when it does come to the accessories, we've got all of the armor as well as those feather extensions for around back to get this into full kaiju mode. So there they are. There it is on the left in the light armor mode, on the right fully armored up. And it does make a huge difference to the overall look of the mobile suit. Bandai knows what they're doing here. They've done this quite a lot, and that is they know you'll want 2 versions of this kit to display both. I know I do. Anyway, when it does come to armoring up the Zirius right here, first off you attach on some thigh armor, these big old plates like so. We've got some front skirting armors, these attach on via simple little pegs, left and right. We've got some extra long pointy armor from the sides of the legs, side skirting armors which are made out of 2 pieces, that's grey and white, so nicely layered. And speaking of nicely layered, we've got some nice color separation up on the shoulders. These are pretty big, pop on into the hard points up on the shoulders. We've got some forearm armor too, again, in that navy blue on white with some green stickers. Jumping down to the ankle armors, these have a whole lot going on. Lots of nice angles here. These pop on once again via a 3mm hole, peg like so. We've got a double premium butt flap back here, so both of these can move. They're nicely twin layered as well, grey underneath, white on the outside, attach on like so. So lastly then we have the feather extension unit backpack. Again, looking fantastic, lots of articulation on here. We've got hard points for attaching the beam sabers onto, and those beautiful feathers which catch the light perfectly. Now we'll mention one kind of thing that does look a little bit disappointing about this are the big armor plates down bottom. They look a little bit hollow on the underside. They are meant to be in white on the bottom, so that is color accurate. However, there is some bits of the design here that does look like something might attach onto these later. So that looks interesting. Anyway, there we go. That is what it looks like fully attached together, popping on the beam sabers onto the side. We've got hard points on the side skirts as well as around on the backpack, and this armored mode just looks absolutely incredible. Time to get the weapons on, and this will be shelf ready. Anyway, that right there is what this looks like with all of that armor on, and it has changed this kit so drastically. It looks over the top incredible, the angles upon angles upon angles. It no longer looks like a lightly armored Gundam anymore, and looks incredibly, incredibly powerful. The Godzilla spikes around back is a really unique touch. Apparently these have been developed using biotechnology, so they are somewhat biological, I guess, and what can I say? Inside of this kit you get two very different looking Gundams, which are the exact same Gundam. A lot of fun. Alright, so like I said, the last touch here is to get the weapons back onto it. So again, attaching the shield is just like what we would have seen before. It pops on into the hand, just like that, and then up into the hard point in the forearm. So exactly the same as when it doesn't have the extra forearm armor on. So the fact that it works in both states is pretty cool. Again, attaching on the beam sabers, same, you just whip off the hand, separate those breads, throw in that beam rifle ham, close it up, and attach it on just like so. And there it is, ready for up on that shelf. So now jumping into the usual pose right here, it is in its light armor mode, and it's absolutely doing spectacularly. Overall, all of the joints are quite good, besides one that did break on me, but it does perform fairly decently. The ankles are very, very nice. You can actually turn them in only at the front, funnily enough, but enough to get it deep down into a lunge. And I do wish there's a little bit more of a toe bend. There's a ball joint there, but the armor panels kind of clash off each other, reducing them a little bit. Overall, good crunch, good arm bend, overall dynamic, and looks cool. There's nothing like a lightly armored Gundam that can pose in very over-the-top dynamic style. So jump right on into the actual articulation itself. As for a comment on the build, this is a solid, nice kit. It does have some polycaps in some areas, but they never really let it down at all. Now, what did was a plastic on plastic joint, so that really is a little bit of an argument towards polycaps in a way. The grip was too tight, twisted it off. Anyway, the neck in here is a classic polycap, so it does what classic polycaps do. So just down and up like so, and side to side. It's a little bit blocked by the old clavicle sensors right here, so it does actually clash with the ears ever so slightly, so you're not going to get a crazy amount, but you will get what you need. The shoulder polycap cups are aligned to move forward and back, but they don't actually move too much inside of the actual body itself. What we get is a ball in socket roll, the full rotation like so. The arm can move all the way up, but it is a little bit of a stiff joint, and it gets blocked by its own little piece of shoulder armor. Semi-full rotation at the upper arm, again blocked by that shoulder piece. Single point bend at the elbow, so that's all we get. Straightening that out again, there it is back. And there, once again, is the bend. The wrist is just your standard ball joint. This can pop out every now and then. When it comes to the torso, we've got a bit of a waist ball right here, and there is an ab crunch section right here as well, which is a little awkward. When you pull it all the way forward, it can get stuck on its own design back here, and then you have to kind of push it back in. So there it is down, there it is up, and there it is fucking stuck. This might actually be a little bit of an intentional thing, so it can hold itself forward without dropping back. Maybe. And we do have a little bit of side to side pivot, once again, just on that polycap ball. So when it does come to the hip joint, it seems I was just super unlucky on the other side. This one is holding up fine, it's not showing any stress, and it's not gripping too hard or anything like that. I'm still not sure exactly what happened. Anyway, this leg right here is almost full rotation up here. There it is, all the way out to the side. You can actually head up even further because there is nothing getting in the way. There is the kick all the way up to the front. We've got a simple 1-point knee bend here, which does like that. Very good. The ankle here is a simple cup in ball. The actual heel back here only moves with that cup and ball, and we do have a ball joint for the toe here, so it can move side to side a little bit more than the actual heel itself, and it can move down and up ever so slightly, but sometimes does end up popping off. So overall, a very nice little poser right here. Once again, there is that usual pose, and it does this without any issues whatsoever. So if you want a lightly armored dynamic mobile suit, this is the one for you right here. So anyway, that right there is it for the review of the high-grade Zirius. This right here is the essential platinum tier gunpla because everything about it is X-platinum tier. That's 4 out of 5 across the board entirely. So when it comes to the aesthetics on this, it's absolutely gorgeous. Platinum tier completely. The only reason it does lose a couple of points is just the color separation in some aspects. In order to be completely extreme Gundarium tier, it would have to have more intricate details, like especially the color separation in the eyes. We are missing some yellows when it does come to some of the vents and various thrusters around in the legs and up in the shoulders a little bit. Besides that though, this is absolutely unique looking. You've got two different variants, a light armored version and a heavy armored version. Both look completely different, one sleek, while one angular, geometrical, and those cool effect parts around back give it a really unique kaiju-esque flair. When it comes to the accessories in here, 4 out of 5 again. This is so much fun. Everything is very, very nice, very well put together. There's a whole lot of options in here. Like I mentioned, light armored mode, heavy armored feathered mode. We've got a beam rifle, shield, and beam sabers, all of which have been given good attention to detail. Nothing here does anything too crazy over the top really, besides the nice ability to armor it up with all of that armor. Incredible. When it comes to the articulation on here, it is super phenomenal. It is so nice. It's nice to pose when the hip doesn't go. I'll talk about that in a second. It can get deep into lunges. Every joint has a nice range of motion. Even some parts like the torso, which doesn't have a whole lot going on, still you get more out of it than you would expect. Once you do get the armor on, this doesn't really limit it too much. Some parts might clash a little bit, but it's been intelligently designed so you can still get very, very nice poses out of it, like you can see right now in these spins. It's good to pose, and it's solid, even though there are some polycaps in some aspects. Lastly then, when it does come to the build, this is 4 out of 5 again. It was very nice to put together. Overall, it is rock solid. Again, there is polycaps in the build, but they work out quite well besides the neck looking a little bit flaccid. Now, when it does come to the broken hip, I decided to outright ignore it. Basically, I trawled the entire internet to see if anybody else had broken a hip on it, and I saw none broken at all. The second hip did not give out at all either. I guess I just got a little unlucky. There must have been some plastic fatigue. Maybe the mold was not complete inside of it because it just fell off pretty much after 2 twists. So there was something going on inside of it. Just definitely unlucky. It happens sometimes with gunpla. Whether factory error, human error, something went wrong. But yeah, platinum tier kit, this definitely puts the premium in premium Bandai. So if you do want one of your own, I got mine through Buy. Link is down there in the description. I highly recommend it. It's so fun, unique, and one cool looking Kaiju Gundam. Anyways, always thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I'll see you next time. It wouldn't be the end of the video without special thanks to each and every single one of you guys for watching my videos, and special thanks to the channel members and the members over on Patreon, including Caleb, Engelhardt, Joe, RG59061, Scotty Thomas, Simon, and Van Fawn.